Teenagers and young adults today often spend a great deal of time playing video games. These games can be engaging and a lot of fun, but studies show that video games hurt us actually more than they can help. I have seen and read about so many instances of teenagers and young adults having poor health because they played way too many video games. Some of you listening may actually play video games. If you don't, you can still understand that playing too much can actually really hurt you. If an individual plays too much video games on a regular basis, they may be hurting their overall sense of self in so many different possible ways. Today I will be talking about a few of those possible ways that people can get hurt. A few include how unhealthy they are for us, how they can hurt our academics, and even how they can hurt how we think psychologically. First of all, video games can be very unhealthy. A lot of you have heard of something called vitamin D. Vitamin D is, of course, commonly absorbed by your body from exposure to sunlight. According to MedicineNet.com, vitamin D is a steroid vitamin which promotes the inessential absorption and metabolism of calcium and phosphorus. A deficiency in vitamin D can actually lead to bone deformity in children and later in life bone weakness in adults. So you can see how important it is to get outside and not be stuck inside playing video games all day. Like I just said, video games pack you inside, and if you don't get outside, you're not getting that vitamin D, which helps promote healthy bones. Not only can video games affect your health, they can also affect your academics. According to the Association for Christians and Student Development, they state that a 2000 study found a negative correlation between GPA and time spent playing video games. Also, in a study done by students at the College of Coastal Georgia, they did a research study that shows over 50% of the students polled stated that playing video games caused them to put off their schoolwork. I can attest to this research because I feel I do the same exact thing. During the school year, I tend to play some video games, and that can distract me from doing my schoolwork. Now, in some ways, video games can be beneficial for academics. There are many, many different educational games out there that can be used by schools to help engage students in learning and making school fun. Lastly, video games can also affect you psychologically. According to Brad Bushman on psychologicalscience.org, over 130 studies have been conducted on over 130,000 participants all around the world. Bushman states that these studies provide evidence that violent video games can lead to an increase in aggressive thoughts, angry feelings, psychological arousal, including increased heart rate and aggressive behavior. They also decrease helping behavior and feelings of empathy for others. Now, obviously, there are good video games out there, like I said, like educational ones, but games like Call of Duty and all of those shooting games can make people feel different ways and think different ways. You may have heard of on the news, people have actually had shootings in different places around the United States and have claimed that after they played shooting games, they think differently and want to shoot people. So that's just one really scary thing about video games. In conclusion, if an individual plays too much video games on a regular basis, they may be hurting their overall self in many, many different ways. Today, I went over only a few of those problems that video games could cause. For example, I went over how it can affect your overall health, also how they can affect your academics, and how video games can change the way we think psychologically. I think as a society, we need to figure out ways to get kids back outside and playing instead of spending all their time inside in front of a television. I think one way, parents need to regulate how much kids are playing video games, maybe an hour at a time and then a couple hours outside, to keep them active and to keep their overall sense of health up and good. So I hope you learned a little bit about why video games can actually be hurtful. Obviously, some video games can be helpful in academics and in other things, but in a lot of ways, playing way too many video games can hurt a person psychologically, health-wise, in many different ways. Thank you.